Oh, we didn't do the countdown. Oh, well, we're going to skip the countdown this time. Nobody's ever said they like it. Nobody's ever said they don't like it. So let me know out there in the comments and tell me if you like the countdown or not. Maybe we'll keep doing that. Anyway, it is Tuesday night. It's 9:00. It's time for the Get Off My Lawn podcast. And I'm very happy that you all are here. My name is John. I will be your host tonight, as always. Over in the producer's chair, just off to my left, is Sandhills Sweetheart holding it down out there in the chat. So if you have any comments, please put those out in the live chat and let us know you're here. Let us know that you're watching. That way we can say hi to you, or she will anyway. And then also we can read your name off at the end of the night and thank everybody who was out there making the chat what it is tonight. Not only that, but if you are out there and you have any questions or comments, then you can sure use the live chat to your advantage there too. If you want it noticed, then you have to tag one of us. One of our panelists who, if our panelists are out there in the chat, you can tag them. Also, you can tag myself or Sandhills Sweetheart. The way you do that, just put an @ symbol in front of the screen name, and then write the screen name exactly the way it shows up. So if it's capitalized or not, spaced or not, all that stuff makes a difference when you put that @ symbol in there. If you do it right, then it highlights it on their feed so that they can see that you tagged them, and that's how you get those questions answered. So you know what? We're just going to throw that banner up there. If you have anything and you can't get to the chat, but you do want something mentioned, you can also send us an email at sandhillslive@gmail.com. And if those come in, I will see those as well when they pop up there. A couple other things real quick that I want to go through. We are now up on Anchor. So you can go to anchor.fm/sandhills-shooter and catch us there. All the audio will eventually be there. It's been a while since I uploaded something new, but I'm trying to go through and get them all uploaded numerically from episode 1. And I've only got one that was out of order so far. So that's why it's kind of taken a little bit. So eventually we'll have them all caught up. I'm hoping by the end of 2020 to have them all on there. And then I can only have to do 1 week at a time, and we'll get those up as they come out there. So if you want the audio form, go to anchor.fm/sandhills-shooter. If you go there, but you've got Spotify or some of the other podcast apps, then you can see where else you can find it through there as well. So go check that out. And then last but certainly not least, if you want to get some cool Sandhills shooter gear, we've got hats. These come in multiple colors. We've also got the trucker style hat that looks kind of like it's denim. It's got some scratches and stuff on it. So you buy a brand new hat and it's already torn up, and apparently that costs extra because those cost more than these do. But you can get these. You can get some stickers, color, and just, well, I'd say black and white, but it's just white. So you can go get those as well. And then you can find all that at blackswantactical.com. Use the discount code Sandhills to get yourself 10% off of your order. And that's the website that John Crump runs, and that's where all of his merchandise is too. So you can get cool Crumpy gear, you can get cool Sandhills shooter gear, and we're collaborating. Eventually we're going to get back together and get some t-shirt designs popped out there too. So there's going to be some cool stuff, some Get Off My Lawn stuff, some other stuff happening there on the t-shirts. So just keep watching the podcast. As soon as those are up, then I will let everybody know. Also follow me on Facebook, just Sandhills Shooter on Facebook. And as soon as those are up there, I will let everybody know that way too. All right, enough of my shameless plugs. Let's see who we've got out there in the live chat. We had Single Shot out there before anybody. He was there when I logged in. So, hey, Single Shot out there in the chat. And then we've got Sandhills Sweetheart, of course. Like I said, she does the typing and I do the talking. Iron Horseman, Blitz is here. Fluffy 10mm Jeep guy. Just Me, Danny. Pat Hirsch is out there and in here. Shooting Money 101. Haven't seen that name before, so welcome. James Allen is here. Who else do we have? We've got Patriot in the Dark. I see you. Grim 90 is out there. And it looks like maybe that is it for now. So, like I said, if you're out there watching and you're not commenting, who's that Defense Dad guy? He's out there saying, yo. I don't know who that is, but I guess we'll let him in the chat. All right. Yeah, if you're out there watching, that's what I've heard. I've heard he always cheats whenever he challenges his little girl to a shooting competition, just so that he doesn't have to watch what she wants to watch on YouTube, which I think is underhanded. But you know what? As long as she doesn't find out, I'll never tell her. She's not listening, is she?
She's in the other room watching YouTube.
Boy, are you lucky. Man, I tried to spill the beans. Okay, let's go around the horn and just let our panelists introduce themselves real quick here. I'll just start to my right, and we've got joining us. This face is fast becoming kind of a regular here in our panel, so always good to have you around here. We've got Paul Lathrop. Paul is part of the Polite Society podcast and the newly formed Armed Society podcast as well, because to get that Polite Society, you've got to have the Armed Society. The two go hand in hand. So welcome, Paul. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me aboard.
You betcha. You betcha. Thanks for being here. All right. Next up, we've got Nighthawk Medic Shoots. What's up, sir?
Not much. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you here. All right, moving on around clockwise, I've got Single Shot reporting live from Parts Unknown, and I'm guessing you're probably in the sleeper, right?
Yeah, I'm actually at home tonight, John, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I got to take off again either Thursday or Friday, but come home for a couple days, get a couple things done, get ready for winter. Yep.
Awesome. Now, remind us all, which state is home?
Maine.
You're okay. You're in Maine.
Yep,
so I guess it doesn't really, I was about to ask you what direction you're going to head, but I venture a guess it's going to be southwest to start with.
Yes, sir. I think I'm headed back out towards Missouri again.
Ah, cool. Well, you'll be only one state away. If you decide to take a load going on west and you come this way, give us a shout out.
Yes, sir. Love to meet you.
All righty. Well, thanks for being here, sir. Next up, we've already picked on him once tonight, so let's pick on him again. We've got Defense Dad. What's up, sir?
Not much, man. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. So you had a shooting competition today, I heard.
We did.
And there was no cheating involved.
None whatsoever.
Good deal. And did she beat you?
Nope. It was close last week. We did it with the 1022 rifle, but we did it with the handgun with her TX22, and it was not close.
Do you think that's because you don't give her near as much practice as you give yourself? Like, hey, I bet for every magazine, I bet for every magazine she puts through that thing, you've put 10 magazines through it, haven't you? It's okay. You can tell us.
No, that's her gun. I usually shoot my 9mm, so okay. Not really. But we haven't shot it in a few months.
Well, there you go. Good deal. Well, then you're equally rusty, so we'll call it fair and square. Good deal. Thank you for joining us tonight. And then last but certainly not least, coming from South Central Nebraska, we've got Mr. Pat Hirsch.
Hey, thanks for having me on tonight.
You betcha. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us again. All right.
Yeah,
so we are right. Okay. So we're going to just kind of have, I think it's just going to be kind of it's going to be a serious discussion, but it's going to be a fun discussion, or it sure can be. A short discussion? Somebody says it's going to be a short discussion over there. We'll see. I think she's ready for bed already, so we'll see how long this discussion takes us. But I do think it's going to be a fun discussion, but this, like I said, this is a serious topic. So as I think everybody is aware, and if you're not aware, then where the heck have you been? 1 week from today is election day. Now, typically that means that, over 90% of the country would go vote that day. I don't know the numbers, but I do know that a sizable portion of America has already mailed in a ballot or dropped off a ballot and has already voted. And so with that being the case, November 3rd isn't going to be quite the I don't know what you want to say, the rat race that maybe it is in certain polling precincts. Sandhills, Sweetheart, and I have not dropped off a ballot or mailed one in. We just intend to go to our local polling place. It's going to be open. I've never had to stand in line to vote yet. I don't know if I will this time. I don't know how many people are waiting to just go and vote in person. But we're just going to do it on Tuesday. And I guess in my mind, it seems like I know the ballot will get in if I just go vote in person, versus I keep seeing headlines that maybe the mail is going to get congested. Maybe some of these ballots aren't going to get in and get counted in time. And I don't want my vote to not get counted. My vote does count, but only if it gets counted. And so I just want to make sure that they get mine in there. So I'm going to make sure that I go down and do that in person next Tuesday. Not saying everybody should. I'm not saying you shouldn't mail it. I'm not saying you shouldn't drop it off. I'm not saying you shouldn't vote early. That's just my opinion. That's just what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Same thing with the topic tonight. I'm not going to tell you how to vote or who to vote for. However, I do want you to think about a few things, and that's what some of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. So we're going to start off and just kind of go around the horn. I titled this episode Gun Vote 2020 because hashtag gun vote is really taking hold out in social media this year. Because in my mind, what that means is, and it's not just the president, but especially in the presidential election this year, the person that wins is going to very, very much affect our Second Amendment rights and the restrictions that are placed on our rights that shall not be infringed. Whoever wins the presidential election is going to have a lot of control over the infringement and the level of infringement on our right to keep and bear arms. And so I guess that's what hashtag gun vote means to me in part. The other thing that gun vote means to me is I think about last year in the state of Virginia, when all of these anti-gun measures were being introduced, but nobody was worried about it because all of the gun owners, I don't know if I should say Republicans, because that seems a little, I don't know if that's inclusive enough. There are gun owners who aren't Republicans. I don't know if I wanted to say just left and right, but the people who would oppose the anti-gun measures seems like they all sat on their butts instead of going out and voting last year in Virginia. Not all of them, but not enough of them got out and voted. And so when all of the results were tallied up, the state went from red to blue. And the Democratic Party, which is typically left-leaning, and their platform, not individual candidates, I won't speak for all of them, but their platform is anti-gun. And so all of these laws that were being introduced got kind of just rammed through their state House and Senate. The governor signed them, and all of a sudden Virginians have restrictions that they never would have believed would have ever happened. And I think that was kind of the general feeling around a lot of the Virginia gun owners at this time last year was, well, it'll never happen here. Virginia will never go blue. Virginia will never be anti-gun. It's never going to happen here. I'm not worried. Well, let me tell you, kids, you better be worried this year, because if it can happen in a pro-gun state like Virginia, it can happen in any state in the union. So that is what gun vote means to me. It means that whether or not you're a single issue voter, if you are a gun owner, if you aren't a gun owner, but you believe in individual freedom and individual liberty and individual responsibility, then maybe you should look at the pro-gun candidates, because they probably, if they're pro-gun and they believe that you should have those rights, then they're probably going to vote for you to keep your rights no matter what the topic is. So that's what gun vote means to me. I'm not a single issue voter, but typically the pro-gun candidates, the reason that they're pro-gun is because they do believe in my individual liberty. And that means that they also believe in the individual is responsible for themselves. Ultimately, it comes down to this. There's two sides basically on this election. and we can argue nuance all we want, but it really comes down to two sides. And I don't care if you're looking at local city elections or county, state, federal, whatever it is, there's one side that believes that you are a grown-up. If you're of legal voting age or older, well, if you're of legal voting age, then you're 18 or older, I guess. You're a grown-up. You have the ability and the right to make decisions for yourself. Nobody else should be telling you what to do or how to do it. You are a flippin' grown-up. And you should make your own choices and be responsible for your own actions. And then if they have consequences, that's on you. The other side thinks that you're a bunch of children and that they're smarter than you and they're better than you and they know better what you should do. So they will tell you what to do, when to do it, how to get it done, and where you need to do it. They don't believe that you can make your own decisions. They don't believe that you're smart enough, that you're capable enough, that you're responsible enough to make wise choices, and that you need them. You need your mom to tell you what to do. And that don't sit well with me. So gun vote really kind of boils down to that. I will keep my own counsel on how, when, or if I am able to defend myself and my family, on how, when, or if I need to overthrow a tyrannical government, on how, when, or if my guns get used. Period. And anybody that wants to come at me with a different idea, that's the very tyranny for which the Second Amendment was written to protect us from. So that being said, we're going to go around the horn, and I'm just going to let everybody else, you can parrot what I said, but I want in your own words what Gun Vote 2020 means to each one of you. So we'll go backwards from the intros. We'll start with Pat. Pat, in your mind, when you see the hashtag Gun Vote 2020, what do you think of? What does that mean to you?
Well, just kind of like what you were saying, it's individual liberties. And I'll kind of springboard off of what you said a little bit here. It's kind of like applying for a job. You go to that job, you hand in your qualifications, and you might have a boss that says, okay, here's the project, go ahead and go do it. He doesn't micromanage you. He doesn't stand there with his head over your shoulder and try to manipulate every little thing you do. And then you might get another boss that goes, okay, I'm going to hold your hand. This is how we're going to do it. This is when we're going to do it. And if there's something that I absolutely do not like, any tiny little thing that I don't like, you have to change it. And it can't be done until I say so. And I've had both kind of bosses. And the boss that I really like to work for is the one that gives me the project and turns me loose. Because I have the power on how it gets done, when it gets done. And yeah, that's kind of my feeling about it as far as springboarding off of what you said earlier. And yeah, I don't like people telling me what to do. So really, I've got to bring it in. So I will choose my way.
Mm-hmm. So looking at it with the job or the workplace analogy, it's kind of like if the boss says, here's what I want done. You've got until this time frame to get it done. And as long as you don't violate any safety rules or any company policies and you don't hinder anybody else's work, I don't care how you get it done as long as it gets done. Right?
Exactly. And that's, in my eyes, that's the kind of boss that I want to work for, not the other way around.
Yep, that makes perfect sense to me. Very good thoughts. All right, Defense Dad, hashtag GunVote 2020. What does that mean to you?
Well, so first off, not to sound like a parrot, but I agree with you. It's not going to be a single issue voter, but the people who are pro 2A, pro gun do tend to represent the values that I have too. It's a scary thought of what's going to happen. If anybody has any doubt whatsoever that the Democrats are coming after our Second Amendment rights and gun rights, go to Joe Biden's webpage and look at it. And Patriot in the Dark just put a link to it, but look
And it's
at
up
his,
on the screen now. If you're watching on video, it's on the screen right now.
look at his policies and what they're coming from. I did if based on my understanding, what he's calling for, half of what I own could be made illegal or NFA item. If I want to keep it, it's going to cost me into the thousands of dollars. I mean, they're coming for it. So I got to vote for the people who have my values and my interests at heart, and not just the whack jobs out there that want to just change this country into socialist.
Speak freely. You guys all know the rules on language, but speak freely. You are free to voice your own thoughts, your own opinions. I probably should throw out some sort of a disclaimer that everybody that voices their own opinions, it's theirs. It's not necessarily mine or the channel. Mine included. My opinions don't reflect on anybody else on this panel. They're mine and mine alone. But speak freely. This is a place where even if you have an unpopular opinion, your opinion is valid because it's your opinion. We don't have to agree with it. It's an opinion. It's not wrong. That's what opinions mean. You might have things that we don't like in your opinion, and based on things that we think are not factual. That's different. But all opinions are welcome because, again, that's what I said. They're your opinions. Opinions can't be wrong. They're subjective. Patriot had another great comment earlier, and I didn't want to cut somebody off from talking, but it says, whoa, wait, we got to think. I didn't sign up for this. Now, there's probably some sort of a Marine joke in there somewhere, but I know too many, and I didn't serve, so I'm not going to throw any shade tonight. But here's kind of ultimately it comes down to back to what I said. There's two sides. One side expects you to think for yourself. The other side wants to do your thinking for you. And I mean, I don't know a better way to sum it up than that right there. So, all right, moving right along, single shot. When you are on social media or YouTube, whatever it is, and you hear gun vote or see hashtag #GUNVOTE 2020, what do you think of? What do you think about?
That's a very serious subject
It is.
because of the fact that this country was fought for by the gun. It can and will be again if necessary. These people that think they can come in and control a free people to the level of socialism, communism, that's not what this country was built for. 6 generations of my family have fought, and some died for the freedoms that we have nowadays. So, as far as I'm concerned, the gun vote is the most important one. We do have a lot at stake, and that is every freedom that we enjoy to the minute of these days. We're not going to have any unicorns out here, folks. Sorry, they don't exist. But we've got to consider what we are going to pass down to our children and grandchildren. We made this mess. It is up to us to straighten it out. So it's something very serious to think about. That's what I've got to say, John. Thank you.
You bet. Nope. Great thoughts. All right. Moving right along. We'll pop up here to Nighthawk. Hashtag #GUNVOTE 2020. Your thoughts?
I'm a history student, and the history of what we are looking at in the United States is much, much, much older than even our country. And I think we have a propensity to look at things from about 1776 feet, as opposed to really looking into what human nature is. And so if we go back through history, we have writers talking about the very thing that we're experiencing in our nation right now as far back as into the 1700s. And if you refer to William Tytler, who spoke of the very thing that a democracy or a republic can never exist as a permanent form of government, because once the people realize that they can just vote for the candidate that would give them the largest trust or the most from the coffers of the nation, that eventually that's who they place their votes for, and the nation collapses upon itself in financial ruin and off to a dictatorship. Well, the circle that is Tytler's cycle completes in the same way, and it begins with apathy on the downfall, and once people become apathetic to their own independence and freedoms, then they begin to give them over to governmental control. And so we are in that position right now, and patriots have begun to age out. And so we have a responsibility, just as Single Shot pointed out, to save what is left of this nation while we have a chance. And it's not a very pretty uphill battle we're in right now. And so your three positions are the ballot box, the cartridge box, and the soap box. And so you'll hear me say on my channel all the time, your First and Second Amendment rights are the two most important rights that you have, because I believe right now we are genuinely in the stage where about all we have left are the soap box and the cartridge box. So get out there and vote, but remember to speak your mind. Do not be repressed.
Yeah, the soapbox is important. That's what this is right here. The cartridge box, I pray it never comes to that.
God help us.
The ballot box, though, I think is still a very viable option. If I didn't think so, then I wouldn't have picked this topic tonight for this chat, because we still have the opportunity to not Virginia, my Nebraska, to not Virginia, West Virginia, or Maine, or South Dakota, or anywhere else where anybody would be listening to this from. We still have the opportunity to not have that happen, to not have some of these red or even purple states go full blue. And again, keep in mind, if it can happen to one, it can happen to any. Okay. The only way to counter that is you have to get out there and vote. So I do agree that those three boxes are all important. But I think the ballot box is still something that is a very viable option. And again, I will do everything in my power from my soapbox to promote the ballot box as opposed to the cartridge box until such time as I feel that there's no other option. There's no other choice, to quote KD. But I do think that the cartridge box is not the right answer. Nobody wins if we start trading shots. Nobody wins. The country loses. The country potentially disappears. And we might have that war that so many people are typing about that they want to have. But ultimately, what rises from those ashes? Is it going to be another form of our republic? Or is it going to be the very thing that we were fighting against? We don't know. There's too many TV shows and movies out there about society collapsing, and then what comes out of it is the very thing that we don't want to see happen. The only way to avoid that is to keep our republic, to make it work the way it was designed, and that is for you, if you're watching this or listening to this, to get out and vote. And that's the only way the republic lives, is if we make it work the way it was designed. That is by voting. We all have a say. So with that said, we will move over to Paul. #GUNVOTE in your words, sir.
I'm going to throw a few ripples in your nice, calm little
Do it.
Man, I'm not going to use a stone. I'm going to use a boulder. In your talk, you mentioned that the people who are against gun rights are against you making a whole lot of decisions. And I would agree with that. But I'm going to say, if we're going Democrat and Republican, that a lot of Republicans are against your personal rights as well. I personally believe if you have an intelligent mind and you know what's going on, you have the right to put whatever you want to in your body. Mm-hmm. I don't give it. I don't care. It's not going to affect me. We've seen a proliferation of medical marijuana and recreational marijuana coming across a lot of states. Look, you do what you want to do. You be you, man. As long as it doesn't affect me, I'm all good with that. The Republicans generally don't like gay marriage. I don't care who you sleep with. Doesn't matter to me a damn bit who you go to bed with or who you marry. It's none of my damn business, and it should be none of the government's damn business. Gun vote, I'm going to agree with you on, though, simply because, how do I put this? We have one final defense against dictatorship. And the only way to keep a dictatorship at bay is by keeping the Second Amendment. My biggest danger, and I'm going to say I've already voted. We voted almost a week ago here. My wife and I did. And I did not vote straight Republican. My representative was rated D by the NRA. And I went ahead and I voted Libertarian in that one. Doesn't matter. South Dakota is a solidly red state. Guy's going to get reelected. But how do I put this? We've got to keep people in power that will let us and expand our right to keep and bear arms. Because when that goes away, it's happened a million times. It'll happen again. When the right to keep and bear arms goes away, the shackles go on. And one last thing I want to say about it, for those of you who think this is going to be that if a revolution comes, if it comes to a shooting war, it's going to be the police and the military will join us and it'll be an easy, quick win. I want you to think back to Hurricane Katrina. I want you to think back to New Orleans. My wife was down there. She volunteered with the Red Cross when Rita, the next hurricane, came through. And there were police in New Orleans that went door to door and took guns from grandma. And there's video of it. They went ahead and followed orders. It's going to happen that way too. There be a few police, a few military that jump to our side? Yep. Will it be as many as you're expecting? Not a chance.
No.
Can I point something out? I remember Katrina. We were loaded into Black Hawk helicopters to go do that relief effort when they canceled us out because they brought in another force. And that force was police departments from New York City and Chicago. They followed Nazi Germany's process. They brought police officers who didn't care a thing about the local population in to police the area. They brought in law enforcement from other areas, much the way the Nazis used to do with the SS. And they disarmed and completely stomped on everybody they encountered with zero resistance or support from any organization. Gun owners just ponied up and handed their crap over. And so I hear a lot of big talk about I will do this or I will do that. But let's give another illustration while we're there. In the history of red flag gun snatches, 2 people have resisted and they're both dead. Okay, so I hate to break it to everybody, but you're not John Wayne, and you're certainly not John Rambo,
or John Wick,
right? And then ultimately, we're afraid to talk. People are afraid to talk. They go on Facebook and they get spanked, and they're afraid to lose their job and everything else. So, if we don't really focus hard now, we're in a lot of trouble.
No, that's very true. Couple things that I want to bring up. Paul, you had said, and I hear this a lot, and I'm not calling you out for saying this, but I want to point this out. You had said that we need to make sure we put people in power. These people that we vote, that we elect to represent us, I don't like the phrase putting them in power. The power comes from the voters. The government only exists by the consent of the governed, correct? And so when we say in power, the very phrase helps condition us to think that they are the masters and we are the peons or we are the serfs. And we all know that's not the case, but we are being conditioned and our kids, I don't have any kids, but kids today are being indoctrinated that you don't question the government, that these people are our betters, that they know better, that they are in power over us, and that somehow that they control us and we work for them, when it's the opposite is the truth. They work for us. We have the power to fire them anytime we collectively decide to do so. And if enough of us decide that they should be fired, they're gone. And if some of us want that person fired and others don't agree, and enough people don't want that person fired, then they keep their power, but they're not in power. We are in power. And I think that it's just a little nuance, and I'm probably splitting hairs here, but it's just things like this that I want to use my soapbox here to point out, and to make everybody else who's hearing my voice right now think about this. You are in power. If you are listening to me and you're an American, then you are in power. I won't speak for those of you in other countries. I know you don't have the same rights that we do, but as Americans, as a voter, the power rests in you and your ballot. And so that's one of those things that I think that we need to, words matter, right? We need to make sure that when we say that we're putting people in power, that everybody else, I know that you know what you meant, but there may be other people that think that the person in the office has the power. And that's definitely not the case. They have some power. We elected them. We gave them certain power, certain decision-making capabilities, or decision-making by proxy, right? We elected them to represent us, but the power that they have is not their power. It's our power, and that they're operating under our power. And I just want to point that out for anybody listening, that when we say power, we need to understand who holds it. And it's us. It's you and me.
John.
So I know you weren't saying anything besides that. I just wanted to clarify the thought process that went through my brain when I heard that. There may be other people. There's probably 2 or 3 in the world that are wired kind of like me. Hopefully not too many more. Another thing that Nighthawk had said, you were dead on when you said, the police came to people's doors, demanded the guns, and they gave them up. Because what options did they really have? Get shot if they resist, go to jail if they resist without firing a shot, or give it up, right? When push finally comes to shove, then you look long and hard at your life. You look at your family. You decide that maybe it's better to live to fight another day, right? I think about Sandhills Sweetheart's brother when the bump stock ban came down, and he owned one, and he did chop the thing up, but he waited until the very last minute of the very last hour to do so before the deadline, because he was hoping that something would get done to where he wouldn't have to take his, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars it cost him, a couple $100 when he bought his, probably somewhere between $250 and $350, I'm guessing. So let's just say it's a $300 piece of plastic or aluminum, I don't know what it was, that he bought. He's out that money. He took a chop saw to it, cut it up the way that it was mandated that he had to do. He was stewing, he was fussing. People at work were telling him, dude, nobody's going to come to your house and do a house by house search. Nobody's ever going to know you have it. Just don't go fire it on a public range. Just don't use it where you're going to get caught. Nobody's ever going to know. You're going to be okay. He looked at his 3 sons. He looked at his youngest, who at the time was about 2. He thought to himself, if I resist and I go to jail for 15 years, I'm going to get out just in time to see my kid graduate. He's not going to know me. He looked at that. He looked at his family, and he said, it's not worth it. It's not worth. I will not comply if that means that I don't get to see my kid grow up. And so he cut it up, because at the end of the day, he's a law-abiding, background check passing citizen. So when people are claiming that they want a revolution or a civil war, whatever you want to call it, mass hysteria and pandemonium is what it's going to turn into. But people that are calling for that, think long and hard about what would you actually do if there's a knock on the door and there's 3 or 4 armed police officers out there telling you that they're here to take your guns and you don't have a say-so in the matter. Are you really going to go grab one and start shooting at them? You're not. You're just not. You're going to live to fight another day. But they're going to win that battle. Then we have to come back and regroup and refight, learn how to fight a war, but they're going to win that battle.
In the history of our world, no group has ever actually regrouped. There's nowhere in recorded history where losing that first opportunity has resulted in a successful resistance to tyranny. And so that's the problem, if you will, with any equation. So we can see where a slow rise up has happened over a couple of hundred years if the local military or economy has been weakened to the point of oblivion with a third party intervention. But rarely is it the case where somebody has lost that initial resistance piece. If you look at our modern world, we have no good illustration of a comeback from that. That is basically the death blow so far from what we've been able to tell.
I'm gonna agree with you, but in a backhanded way. I was originally going to bring up the American Revolution, but we would have never won that if it hadn't been for the French. As much crap as everybody gives the French about laying down and surrendering, they came and rescued our butts big time. Without the French, we would still have a queen.
That's very true. But also, to Nighthawk's point, had Lexington and Concord gone differently, there would not have been much of a revolution. It would have just been some insurgents that got stamped out. And again, God save the queen in that case too, right?
Yep. There is a theory, by the way, going around right now that we've officially already lost. And the reason is that Virginia fell. And the way that Virginia fell has basically inspired a complete shift in the policies that our would-be dictators are going to be using going forward. There's a guy out there right now, and I can't recall his name, forgive me, who is documenting the travels or the exodus of lefty organizations into right-wing areas. And he is almost perfectly documenting the same pattern that was basically used to overthrow Virginia. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And what he is betting on, so a lot of places we have people who have been in super red states forever, and their large population centers are beginning to fill with lefties. And the politicians that were once just a regular Democrat in that area are beginning to switch to the leftist policies, whereas they may have voted pro-gun previously, they're beginning to follow their party line. And so it's not that, your state is completely overrun with leftism. It's that the fellow that was kind of a moderate Democrat before is now swung full left ring to ensure that he's winning the California vote or the New York vote.
All right, a couple things out here in the chat that I want to address. First off, it was like Emptiness says, mass confiscation cannot happen before communications collapse, which may be true, but I think we've seen with shadow banning and everything else, who controls communications right now? So unless we have a bunch of ham radio operators, of which I am not one, who controls it? And the reason that I say that is it may be next to impossible to shut down the entire internet, and we may still have communications that way. But how do we organize? It's going to be like kicking over an anthill. It's going to be just a lot of confusion before everybody regroups and rebuilds. Therefore, communications are more easily disrupted than one would think. What were you going to say, Paul?
I got to disagree. I just posted a story on Facebook on the Polite Society podcast page today. We are going around them. All you've got to do is look for Trump parade. And it doesn't matter if it's a boat, if it's a truck, if it's a car. There are airplane parades out there, for heaven's sake. They're all over the place, even though they're trying to be shut down. there are all kinds of instances of we're getting the word out and we're going straight around Google and Facebook and the others.
No, that is very true. I definitely will not argue with that. A few more comments out here. Poor conservative, and I don't know if this is meant at me personally or just the people in the illustration. I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. Live to fight another day. You never fought to start with. Now, if that means that I'm not a veteran, that's very true. If that means that I've never fired a shot against tyranny with a firearm, that's very true. But if you think about it, the war's already begun, right? The disarmament, the anti-gun agenda, the all of the things that are, you know, socialism is more and more looming over us, I guess. It's creeping closer and closer. And the reason that I say all this is because how do we combat that? How are we losing our gun rights now? They're not firing shots. They're not marching down the street in jackboots and taking guns from house to house like they did during Hurricane Katrina or after it. That's not happening now, and yet we're losing our rights slowly but surely because, and nobody's fired a shot because they're fighting this battle legislatively. And in the court of public opinion, we are all guilty. And anytime there's a school shooting and kids are dying, everybody on this panel that owns firearms in the court of public opinion, according to the mainstream media, that blood is on our hands because we won't give up our guns because we love our guns more than we love our children. They don't understand the concept that we own our guns because we love our children. That's not a concept they can grasp. But the fight is already going, and having a soapbox to speak from means that we're fighting the battle of disinformation with information, right? We're trying to get the truth, the facts out there. We're trying to educate and to fight the education fights the indoctrination, I guess. I don't know how else to say that. DC Project already said it the best way. So educate, not legislate. I can't do it better than that. That is actually that's the battle that's going on. And poor conservative says that wasn't me personally, but still, I just want to point out that we're all in this fight already. We don't have to fire shots, but we still need to fight back. Go ahead, Paul.
I want to add some words of encouragement if I could.
Yeah.
We had a major victory yesterday, and no matter what happens a week from today, that victory is going to stand for 30, 40 years. And I honestly believe the way we're going to get our gun rights back, do we need to go vote tomorrow or next week? Absolutely. I've already done it myself, but we have to go out and vote. It's important we keep the momentum we have in the Supreme Court, in the district courts. All federal courts on the district level and above are lifetime appointments. Trump has appointed over 200 pro Second Amendment jurists to these posts, far more than Obama did. And by re-electing him, we expand the pro-freedom people on the courts. Almost every judge that I've seen that I've actually looked at, and I haven't looked at 200 of them. I've looked at a dozen or so, and every single one of them is a strong constructionist. That means, by definition, that they follow the Second Amendment and they follow all the Constitution as written. That they do not believe it's a living document, and I think that's a great thing, and it provides us a great amount of hope.
Nope, that is very true.
Can I point out the ugly chick in the room, though? So if we think even for a minute that there is even a snowball's chance in heck that they're going to allow us to control the Supreme Court, even for more than a 4-year term, we're crazy. We are horribly deluded. The moment that they have enough power to change that, they will be flooding the court. They've already said. And what we have to learn about the left is that when they're talking the craziest is when they're telling us exactly what they intend to do.
Oh, that's very true. Couple things before I go back into that, before I lose my train of thought here. Blitz has got some stuff out there in the chat that I want to put up here on the screen. He says, I really wish we would have heeded George Washington's warning on the two-party system. For those who haven't read it, it's worth the read, and then you'll see where we are at. And then I believe this is Blitz quoting George Washington. However, political parties may now and then answer popular ends. They are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. And that was President Washington that said that. And very, very, very powerful words. If anything, you should back this up when you watch this on the replay and listen to that again. Pause it, whatever you need to do to read it, but pay attention to that, because that is exactly how things happen. And we've seen that throughout history that has happened. So, all right. And then one other thing I did want to mention when Nighthawk was talking about people talking the craziest, it's funny how, I just had this thought today, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to draw this connection. If I drew it, I'm sure most of everybody else already has. But it's kind of funny how everybody keeps saying, hey, we're not going to take away your guns. We're not going to take away your guns. But then Joe Biden's gun control platform or policies, whatever you want to call them, involve a couple different things. He wants to have universal background checks, which don't do any good without a registration. He wants to have a national gun registry. And he also wants to have the mandatory, what he calls buybacks, which is, we all know, confiscation. So there are people, when you say that a national gun registry will always lead to confiscation, it always has in the past, there's no other reason to have it. And then people look at you like you're crazy. I want you to show them that Joe Biden wants to register your guns, and he wants to force you to give them to the government, because by then he'll know you have them. It won't be like New Jersey. John Crump did all the research, found out when New Jersey had their mandatory buyback on the what they consider high capacity magazines, which for most of the rest of the country is standard capacity. He found out, and they weren't going to release this information publicly, but he brought it out into the light, that not one magazine got turned in the state of New Jersey.
Nope.
0. Because they don't know who has them. So when you have a mandatory gun buyback, we'll call it with his words, we all know what it really is. But that mandatory gun buyback is successful if the guns are registered, because then they know who has them. They know that if you didn't turn it in, they will come to your house. You'll be in trouble. You can't explain to them that you lost it in a boating accident, because there will already be laws in place that say you have to notify within 24 to 48 hours of losing one or having it stolen. So that's not going to work either. And those of you who did lose your guns in a tragic boating accident already, you better hope, if those are written down anywhere, that you never get caught with that one again in your possession, because you said that one was gone. So keep that one in mind too. If you say it's on the bottom of a lake, it just as well be there, because you can't ever take it out again. You've got to have it buried somewhere and leave it there. So again, not doing you a lot of good.
I'm going to jump in. And for those that don't think that that's accurate, look at New York. You are going to get more time if you are in New York if you shoot somebody with an unregistered gun than the person you have to shoot if they survive, if they're breaking into your house.
Yeah,
it's 15
getting
for
mugged,
breaking,
whatever it is.
It's 15 for breaking and entering. It's 25 for possession of an unregistered firearm.
Wow, that is crazy.
I'll just pipe in and say this, because far as registry, if you don't think that stuff's really recorded someplace, John, you and I both know someone who, I won't mention his name because I was permission, who 15 years after he sold a firearm got questioned by the police because he got used in a crime, and they knew he was the original owner of it. How in the hell else?
He's told that story on the internet, so I don't think it's any. You can pretty much figure it out if you know Defense Dad and me and who we hang out with. You can probably guess who that is. Go ahead, though. I'm sorry.
But either way, I'm saying if you don't think there's already some sort of registry, you're fooling yourself. But back to Joe Biden's plan, like, he doesn't want us just to register the guns. If you read the plan, it's going to apply to every single magazine you own above
and parts.
Yeah, it's nuts. That's why I say if people don't really think they're coming from, just read that. It's ridiculous. Have you done a personal? I'm not going to say dollar amount, but have you guys all looked at your saves and figured out how much money it would actually cost you to legally keep you if he wins?
If your semi-automatic modern sporting rifles become NFA items, and if your magazines become NFA items, then you're going to have to register every one of them. Not only that, in order to register them, you're going to have to get a tax stamp for every one of them. And that's a $200 item for every one of them.
And there has to be a way to have them serialized. So you're going to have to serialize each and every one of your magazines that holds over 10 rounds. I hope you don't have a whole lot of extra mags for your Glock.
Yep.
You know, they're not going to let you do that either way. If you think even for a minute that let's assuming you could pony up the money.
Right.
It's going to take 6 to 8 months during an ideal period to do that paperwork. If 34 million Americans try to do it, which is a conservative estimate, 34 million Americans try to do it, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, we already know how long it takes to get a tax stamp back.
Yeah.
And so let's flood the market. And 34 million Americans, but that's assuming one rifle and one magazine. And we all know that very few people who have one MSR have only one MSR.
Right.
I may be one. I'm definitely in that minority, but even I've got multiple magazines, and it's none of your dang business how many. Well, I've got more than one.
It doesn't apply just to those two. Like, I only own only one of the handguns I own would likely not fall under this because I only have one that has less than a 10-round capacity. Every other single one, if I'm lucky, you just have to buy new magazines for.
I've already got a gun now. Well, my Taurus TX22, just like your daughter's. I can't take the magazines into Colorado because it already holds more than I can have. Just crossing a state line, I would already be in trouble. The gun's okay. If I accidentally go take my range bag where that gun usually is with me into Colorado, as long as I don't have the magazines, I'm okay. But that gun doesn't do much without one. So no, you're exactly right. Another thing that made me think about all this weekend, I was hanging out with my cousin. We went up to my dad's ranch and we're getting ready for deer season. And he lives in Omaha. Now, for those of you some of you may not know this, Omaha's a town and it's in Nebraska. So
no,
yeah, a lot of people have heard of Omaha, but they don't know where it is. They think it's somewhere in Kansas, or I don't know or Iowa. I don't know. Anyway, Omaha's got its own set of laws because we don't have statewide preemption in Nebraska. It'd be great if we did. If I knew somebody that's about to start on the board of the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association, then I would talk to them and let's see what we can get done if we can find a senator that's willing to introduce that. But that's beside the point. Thanks for your votes. I appreciate you. Anyway, we don't have statewide preemption right now. So that means that whatever we have in our state constitution can still be infringed upon by local governments, county, city, whatever it is. In Omaha, if you do not have a Nebraska, and I don't know how this works for out-of-state residents or non-residents, I just know for Nebraskans. If I go into Omaha, I'm okay because I have a CHP. So that actually does preempt Omaha's handgun laws. But if you have a handgun in Omaha and you don't have a concealed carry permit, then you have to register that handgun with the police. That's not only for Omaha residents, that's for anybody visiting. If you take a handgun into Omaha and you don't have a concealed carry permit, then you have to register that handgun with the police.
And I think 48 hours.
if you are open carrying in Omaha, because we have permitless open carry in Nebraska, along with a lot of other states. If you're open carrying in Omaha, you have to also have a concealed carry permit, because open carry is only legal in Omaha if you can conceal it, which doesn't make any sense to me. And it also seems like it is an infringement of our state constitution, but apparently it's legal to do such a thing. So I hadn't thought about this. My cousin was telling me that he was talking to, I don't know if it was the guy at the gun shop or if he was talking to somebody that he knows that's a police officer or what, but he got advised that if he gets pulled over and he's in Omaha, that the thing to do is to stick his hands out the window and lay them flat on his door, so that when the officer walks up to the door, they already see his hands, they're not moving, and there's nothing in them. Because before they get up to that vehicle, they're going to know that he owns a handgun. It's not even a case of duty to inform at that point, because in Nebraska, there's also a duty to inform. If you get pulled over and you're carrying, you have to tell the officer that you're carrying.
Or the EMT if you're getting worked on.
Or the EMT if you're getting worked on. That is true. But yeah, any first responders, I guess, even though we all understand that we respond first, they respond second. But the point is that you have a duty to inform in this state. But this goes beyond that. They're already going to know that he's got a gun. They're not going to know if he's got it with him or not. So they're going to be prepared. And to avoid another Philando Castile type of a situation, he just needs to do what he needs to do. And it doesn't matter what color his skin is. That's not the point here, but he's going to be safer if the officer that pulls him over understands that they're not in any direct imminent danger from him. So I never even thought about that. They can pull me over. They're going to see that I have a CHP, but they're not going to know if I have, what I have or how many or what it is, whatever. It just the very thought that he's got a firearm that the government knows about in his house means that if it ever hits the fan and they start going door to door, his door will get knocked on. And he's got other stuff too, because he's a hunter. And I don't know what else he has. I don't know everything that he's got in his gun safe, but it's all going to go out the door if they start taking guns. And just because he bought a handgun because he wants to get a CHP. But once he gets that CHP, he's not going to be able to unregister his handgun with the police. And another thing we haven't brought up yet, the new 4473 form.
Oh, man.
Which hasn't taken effect yet, won't till November 1st, but a lot of dealers are already out of the old one and already using the new one. The front page of that is not only going to have your name and address, but also the firearm and the serial number on it.
The Scanomatic form.
So even though it's illegal for ATF agents to scan those or compile a registry or whatever, if somebody gets, spot audited, how hard would it be to just look through each one, snap a picture on your phone, turn the page, snap a picture of the next 4473? How hard would this really be to do? It won't be.
Not at all.
No. So don't kid yourself. The pieces are already being set on the chessboard. The only thing that we can do is see what's happening and try not to get trapped, because when checkmate comes, we literally won't have another move to make. That's what that means. And we don't want to get in that position.
I'm going to lighten things up a little bit for you, if you don't mind.
Yes.
As you were saying that, going to the knowing how many guns you have and all that, a meme that I seen on Facebook this week has just, and I've seen it a bunch.
Are you going to screen share it? I can make you big on the screen here.
No, I don't have it in front of me right now, but the meme is something. It's a picture of the from a John Wick movie. John Wick sitting there, and
I think I know the one.
Yeah, he's. How many guns do you have? What do you mean on me right now or in total?
Yep, that is perfect.
I tell people who ask that question, that's kind of like breaking the first rule of Fight Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime I see something like that, my standard answer is nice try, ATF.
Ha!
Even if it's in person, it's just funny. Nice try, ATF.
And there were a couple. I know you've been watching, but a couple of people, when you mentioned Omaha, somebody said it's a steakhouse, and I know they sell frozen meat throughout the country. But the other one I liked, the comment was, it's a beach on Normandy.
Very true. Very true. Yes. All right. Out there in the chat, Redneck Prepper had said, checkmate only if you have a registered gun. Well, the point is that they're all going to be de facto registered, whether we have an official registry or not, which is technically illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ways, if you make it a de facto registry without making it official, then it does the same thing. It serves the same purpose. And so that is what we want to avoid. The reason why we want to avoid such a thing is just what we've been talking about. In history, there has never been a weapons registry in a country that did not get followed by confiscation. And even if you don't think that Joe Biden is going to come and confiscate all your guns, I agree. But what about Kamala Harris? What about Beto if he would ever get voted in? It's not this guy or this gal that we're as worried about as we are. What about a generation from now when nobody's left alive that remembers 9/11 or remembers the original Gulf War and any of the things that Saddam Hussein did to his people? I mean, what about down the road? If it's in place now, it just makes it easier for our children or our children's children to have their rights taken away and become basically chattel.
Well,
I got to correct you. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make it quick. So look at what they've done to the history books already. I mean, I sent my daughter to $7,000 a semester private academy, and they were handing her history books that had completely rewritten the Second Amendment in them. It says that people in an armed militia can have rifles. That's basically what the book said. They completely rewrote the Second Amendment. And there was an asterisk next to it at the bottom of the page in little tiny print. It said, reworded for what local states might actually treat their Second Amendment like. So the attempt is already being made to rewrite history and to rewrite the Constitution and to write things the way they want them.
No, that's very true. What were you going to say, Paul?
I need to correct you on one instance where registry did not lead to confiscation. As a matter of fact, it led to the end of the registry. That's Canada. It wasn't that long ago. All throughout Canada, all handguns were registered. And shortly after I started podcasting, so this would have been somewhere around 8 to 9 years ago, they got rid of the handgun registry in total. After it had been in place for, I want to say, and I'm not from Canada, I'm just trying to remember this off the top of my head, which isn't 20 years old anymore, so my memory isn't as sharp as it once was. But it was in place, I want to say, for 15 years and had solved a total of 0 crimes. And they got rid of it. Now, this is before Trudeau got into power.
I was going to say, how are they doing now?
Yeah. But and Montreal fought and wanted to keep theirs. And they eventually lost. But there's one case, and I don't mean to be contradictory. I just want to be accurate. There's one case where there was a registry where it did not lead to confiscation.
Well, I'm glad you clarified before Trudeau came in, because my comment was about to be, if we don't fight this stuff, we're going to become Canada.
Mm.
Well, there's a lot of people that already think we should be more like Canada because they have, socialized medicine. They don't have to pay out of pocket for healthcare, and they don't have to pay out of pocket.
They don't get healthcare.
Well, but they don't have to pay for what they're not getting.
Back when I was a nurse,
their drugs
bills.
They, I understand that. I've got people that I know that are in Canada that claim such things. And it's kind of funny. This was brought up. I don't remember now. I think it was Glenn Beck that I saw sometime here in the last week or two on one of the shows that I watch. I think it was Beck that brought this up. Do you know why so many countries like Canada, like England, like Sweden and Norway, any of the ones that you can name, why they have healthcare provided by their government and they have the money to pay for all this kind of stuff? It's not only because their people bring home half or less in their paycheck, which is also true. It's also because they don't have a defense budget. Because you and I are paying to keep their borders secure. And that is one of the things that gets talked about way too little, that Trump has done right in making NATO pay their fair share, because it's about time that we stopped paying to keep Italy and Germany safe and start paying to keep the American citizens safe.
I haven't looked recently, but about 30% of our federal expenditures are for defense. And I don't think that if anything, under the last few years under Trump, that's gone up, not down. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But
and if you talk to anybody who is currently serving or has recently served and has been discharged since Trump came into office, they can tell you that the equipment has gotten so much better and the morale has gotten so much higher.
mm-hmm.
I don't care what branch you're talking about. They were tired of having junk equipment to deal with and not much of it. And the money that Trump did secure for the defense budget, I mean, the people on the pointy end are very, very appreciative that they've got better stuff now, and they are more likely to come home, which is what it's all about. I don't have a problem keeping our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, whatever, safe.
Space Force members,
Space Shuttle door gunners. If that actually is a position, I will get into shape and I will enlist, because that's what I want to do. Space Shuttle door gunner. But honestly, I don't have a problem with my tax money going to bring our armed forces safely home and bring them home in one piece with all the pieces still attached, or more likely to be so. I don't have a problem with it going to them. I have a problem when our people are suffering and don't have the right equipment to keep them safe, but yet we're giving money and fighter jets to other countries and pallets of cash to other countries for their defense, just so that stuff can be stolen, turned around, sold on a black market, and then shot at our soldiers. I just can't stomach that idea.
Neither can I.
So, all right, now that I've kind of got myself back worked up again, I think I had some other stuff that I did want to bring up, but I really have kind of forgotten what it was, because that's how my ADD works. So, okay.
Let me say just this one thing. History's going to keep repeating itself until we learn the lesson.
There's an old saying, and I think it may be Cantonese or Indian, that your life is just a series of lessons and you only have to repeat them over and over again if you don't learn them on the first try. And in the history of the world, we've seen these lessons repeated over and over and over again. And for some reason, we refuse to learn them. And going and revisiting the Tytler cycle, I don't think there's anybody in this room that doesn't have a tremendously easy life compared to other places in the world. And so we are much less willing to throw that away at the off chance that we might obtain more liberty on the backside of that. And there's, I think, probably Samuel Clemens said it best, and that was that in the beginning, the patriot is a hated man and despised by many, but when his cause succeeds, others will join, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot.
All right, out there in the chat, Seven Wonders wants us to address his concern about 4473s being used as a registry. I don't know what more we can say than what we've already said. So Seven Wonders, if you want to elaborate, throw it an email or something if it's too long to put in a comment. But I don't know what else we can say about that for now. We talked about that. So if I've missed something or if I've left something out, then yeah, let me know what that is. Out there in the chat, we do have an Austrian. It looks like Manfred Maximus is an Austrian citizen. And I know that there are people that are kind of going back and forth. I don't think anybody out there is getting too rough on him out there. So Manfred, just so you understand, some of the things that you're bringing up are things that we have. Some of us have almost grown weary of defending our country and our freedom to people outside our country. So let me just kind of put it like this. I understand the inability to understand. I know that you don't get where we're coming from because you can't miss what you never had. And when you've never had the freedoms and the individual liberties that the American citizens have had, then you don't know why we are so adamant that we don't give those up. I get where you're coming from, that you don't get where we're coming from. The only thing that I would say is if you can make a trip sometime to visit the U.S. and then not just Washington, not just New York, not just the East Coast or the West Coast, but come into the middle of the country where the I want to say the real people are. You want to get it. You want to see all of the country. Go all the way across the country. If you ever get a chance, do that. Talk to people and just learn how free we really are, or really were and should be in our country. That's what I would say.
Can I add that don't go to New York, don't go to Los Angeles and think that's America. Yeah, they're part of America.
They are. They're Americans.
Go to Des Moines, go to North Platte, Nebraska. Come here to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Go to, you name it, liberal Kansas, which, by the way, is absolutely not liberal. Go anywhere.
Well, I don't know. They've got some lax drug laws over there.
Well, you were not listening when I was. That's libertarian, not liberal.
That's true. Oh yeah, right. My bad. Go to Texas, Manfred. If you get to the U.S., go to Texas.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, go to South Dakota.
Maine.
Check out
Maine, the way that life should be.
Eat a lobster in Maine. Go see Mount Rushmore. Go to Texas. Check out the Alamo. I mean, so much cool stuff here. It was like Emptiness said he was asking why we only have two parties in power. Well, because most people are part of those two parties. I know I've seen out there in the comments before, and what was it? It was something was said about the mainstream media is never going to give a third party any traction. Well, the people will give a third party traction when they've got a candidate who actually can step up to the plate and contend, I think. And I'm not trying to disparage Jo Jorgensen. I get it. She is almost everything I want in a candidate. Almost. But I've said this before. I can't bring myself to vote for her because she apparently does not believe that life begins at conception. I'm totally cool with giving women the freedom to make their own choices of what to do with their body. But I also believe that if they're pregnant, there's somebody else's body that they are making choices for. And I would never tell a woman what to do with her body, but that other body that has DNA that is not the same as hers, it's not any part of her body because it doesn't have her DNA. It's got its own unique DNA code. That is the body that I think it should be illegal to murder. That's all I'm saying. But Jo Jorgensen is okay with such a thing because it falls under that freedom of choice, my body, my choice thing. Well, you do what you want with your body, but if you have another body growing inside yours, that to me is a different discussion. But I've talked about this ad nauseum. Until people can get together and until everybody agrees that life begins at conception, the abortion discussion is really moot, because if we're not coming from the same place, then we're not talking about the same things. So I understand that one's just going to have to be what it is. I'm not going to get that changed personally, but I just wish that more people would understand that that's not a parasite. It's not a clump of cells. It is going to be a human being. Every time that an egg gets fertilized, a human egg gets fertilized by a human sperm cell, a human grows out of it. You don't get a horse or a pumpkin. You get another human. But it's not the same DNA. Amniocentesis will prove that. The DNA sequence is different than the mother's and different than the father's because it's not a part of either one of their bodies. That's just what I'm saying. That's why I can't vote for Jorgensen, because she doesn't believe what I believe there. Trump does. And for the most part, I think that he wants to be pro-gun. And I think that if enough of us can get his ear, and I know that new council that Amanda Suffolk and Ronnie Barrett and a few others are part of, I think with them having his ear, I think that maybe the avenue is in place now to where we can actually teach the president why being pro 2A is being pro America. And I think we've got a chance of getting him to realize that.
I've got to jump in here. And I know this is your show and I'm taking a lot of it.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I've got to jump in here. There was a mandate put down from day one at the Trump White House that no new regulations come about without dropping 2 regulations.
Right.
The ATF has been without a director because the Senate will not, what am I trying to say? Will not approve a director for the ATF. It's been without a director for over 2 years, and the ATF went against Trump's policy and behind his back and pushed through the bump stock ban. And without spilling too many beans, I know a lot of people on the commission that you talked about. And without spilling too many beans, I know some people that are very, 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 very influential that have done things like stayed at the Mar-a-Lago resort, that while Trump is there, that have had extended conversations, not only with Trump, but with people high in his cabinet, and that Trump himself is the most pro Second Amendment president we've had. Oh goodness. I'm going to say since Eisenhower. He's better than Reagan. He's better than either of the Bushes. And I want to go on one last thing, and I'm going to agree with, I am a libertarian. I would love to vote libertarian. However, they're polling right now in about the 3% area. Their chances of getting Joe's chances of getting the presidency are right up there with me winning lottery tomorrow without buying a ticket.
Next to none.
And she's also for open borders, and I detest that.
No, absolutely not.
The problem is the Libertarian Party never runs anybody that is even halfway interesting that a conservative would run over to. We're always complaining about them having some massive hole in their policy. You want the perfect election? Get Republicans to go pro weed, and I bet you don't lose an election for another 40 years.
Now, a couple things I want to bring up. First of all, Gary Johnson was probably the closest of anybody to getting on the debate stage.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the exact numbers, but a third party candidate has to get a certain percentage or be polling at a certain percentage. It may be, I don't even remember how that works. Is it in the primary? Do they have to win a certain percentage of the votes in the primary? I think it is, to get on the general debate stage. And they would allow a third party candidate on the debate stage. It's not like Joe Jorgensen's being frozen out. She just didn't get enough votes to get herself there. If there's a third party candidate who everybody else would vote for and say, hey, at least give this person a chance to talk, then that third party candidate could very well steal the election from both of the other two parties. I understand that concept, but at the same time, you're not only fighting a lot of institutionalism, you're not only fighting a lot of entrenched bipartisan or two-party thinkers, but you've got to convince the American people that you can do better without the backing of either of the two main parties. And we've already got a president who claims to be a Republican who doesn't have the backing of the Republican or the Democrat parties. So imagine what's being done to Trump, but tenfold, because neither party has anything to lose, because neither party has the same letter behind their name as the president. So just think about all that. Secondly, on the screen, it was like emptiness says that's the reason we only have two parties, because we have single issue voters like myself. If you have ever heard me talk, if you have been around this podcast or my Facebook page ever, then you know that's a load of crap. I'm not a one issue voter. I'm just going to say it at that. Go do your research and then come back when you've got actually something to say. Okay.
You know, hang on, one more thing real quick. And so, you know, the Republican Party has always claimed to be the small government party. And with as many people clamoring for the government to give them more money right now, I don't understand why the Republicans aren't marching home with this on their shoulders. We'd like to shrink government and reduce the amount of tax you pay on any paycheck. I mean, the fact that we are so bad at spending the benefits and then abandoning the very things that made us successful, I don't understand why people don't vote for us. You know what I mean?
Well, let's look at the stimulus checks. That's money we don't have. And the Republicans were pushing it just as much as the Democrats were. And they're still pushing it.
Yep.
You know, it's funny. I keep saying, and I'm not the first one to say it. I hadn't thought much about it until I saw this in a meme. But the best stimulus that I could possibly get right now is if they just suspended my income tax.
Yes.
And I've said that before, and people are like, well, what's the government going to run on? Well, what are they running on now? Money that they don't have. What's the difference? But stop taking it out of my paycheck, at least through this COVID crap, until we open our country back up. When the country is running again and the economy is running again, then and I'm still going to be against income tax, but then if you're going to take money out of my check, then, you know, we'll have that discussion, and I can see things going back to the way they were when things go back to the way they were. But stop taking money out of my check. The people that can't go to work, help them with this money that we don't have to spend, but we'll spend less of it. Keep the people that are being blocked by their governments from working, take care of them. It's not their fault they're not going to work. The people that could work but don't get nothing because they're not blocked by their government from going to work. Therefore, all they're getting is tax incentives that for, you know, they're already not paying them because they're already not getting paid. So we don't lose any money on them whatsoever. And those of us that are still working, we have more money brought home in our checks to keep the economy going for the businesses that are open. And we can keep these local stores running better because we can afford to shop there more. And again, I think that rising tide is going to lift all boats. So I don't know why I understand why nobody's proposed this, because it's crazy talk. It might actually work. But just think about some of this stuff, people. Use your head for more than growing hair or holding a hat in Paul's. No, I'm sorry.
Keep an eye on those stimulus checks.
I have a little bit.
Oh, there's some there. Well, you know what? Won't be long, and I'm going to match you.
You know, here's another thing. And so I like to point this out. And, you know, we have the largest pyramid scheme in history that's about to explode on itself going on in this country. And I was looking at it the other day. I get a bonus every month from my company, and they took $1,900 in Social Security taxes out of my bonus. I can't put $1,900 on a bonus check in my retirement fund through the company. I can't do that. But you can take nearly $2,000 every time I get a bonus check out of that bonus check and throw it at 2 generations back who failed to prepare. I hate to say it, but it's time for some people to be accountable for their behaviors. I watch people have horrible, horrible behaviors their whole lives and then retire, or their thought process is that they're going to live on Social Security.
Mhm.
And so this scheme keeps stacking itself up, and Republicans and Democrats are both grabbing money from it.
Mhm.
And so, you want to give me money back? Let me control my retirement. I expect to be a multimillionaire at 60.
Very good points. Agrizer says MTTA, make taxation theft again.
Yeah.
And Patriot says the Republicans were talking about suspending income tax. That's when the Dems were talking that Social Security would crash in 2 years. Hold my pearls. Social Security would be fine if the money that I paid in stayed put and I could take it out later.
Yep.
But the fact that the government is holding it for me instead of a place that I choose to put it, a bank or an investment or what have you, a retirement fund, the fact that the government forces me to pay that and then holds on to that money for me, again, is them telling me that they know better than I do how to spend my money. Just like the whole, I know how to spend my money. If you want this economy running, let me have it. Don't take it from me and then fight for months on end, not agreeing on a program to give it back to me. Let me just keep it in my pocket to begin with. I'll spend it the way I see fit. Thank you very much. I'm a grown-up. I'll make my own decisions. And if I don't make good decisions, thank goodness Sandhills' sweetheart does. But just saying, again, it goes back to tax money is only taken because the government thinks that they can spend your money better than you can on things that they want to spend it on instead of the things that you want to spend it on.
I just wanted to point out something too. You mentioned those stimulus checks. Unless I completely missed something, don't forget that what you got a stimulus check is coming off your tax return next year.
Correct.
It wasn't free money. That was a loan against your own money.
Yeah,
Yep.
even better, right?
I'm among those that pay every year anyway. So,
Oh yeah, they get about 15,000 from me every year, no matter what.
All right, Manfred has a great question. Why is free health insurance in the USA socialism, but not $600 billion for the Army? Well, a couple things. First of all, the Army was never intended to be a standing army forever. We've talked about that before. Militias are actually what was supposed to keep our country safe. However, the government's job, and it's got a couple different things here. And one of these things I'm going to touch right when we close. But the military's purpose right now is to keep our citizens safe from threats outside our country.
mm-hmm.
And that is why federal money is spent to keep our citizens safe from threats outside our country. And a lot of our federal money is misspent trying to be the world's police force. We're not, and I don't think we should be. And I think we should maybe mind our own business and focus on our own citizens more. But that's just me with my somewhat conservative viewpoints talking here. But socialized medicine means that the government controls the healthcare. A lot of people think that healthcare should be a right. And we've talked about that before in here. But here's the thing. Rights end when they bump up against other people's rights. And you do have a right to your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness. Now, I've talked about that on the way I see it before. Pursuit of happiness doesn't mean that you have the right to be happy or that the government should provide that happiness. Pursuit of happiness means that you are free to pursue such a thing, whatever makes you happy. If it doesn't take away anybody else's life, liberty, or their pursuit of happiness, then have at it. Go be free, okay? But when you start mandating that as a doctor, you tell me that I have to work on somebody when I chose not to, nobody has a right to my time or my service. I will decide.
Slavery.
That's called slavery. I will decide. If I was a doctor, I would decide who, when, and if I worked on. Okay. That we have laws in place that say that I can't discriminate against somebody based on the color of their skin or their religion. Right. I get that. But if I just decide that I don't want to work, the government can't force me to do a surgery that day if I'm a surgeon, just because somebody else has a right to healthcare. Healthcare is not a right. And I'm going to say this again at the end, but I keep waiting to say this. Too many people think that the government's job is to keep them safe. The government is not here to keep you safe. In fact, the police are not even here to keep you safe. What was the court case? Gonzalez versus, I can't think of the town now. The Supreme Court ruled that the police do not have a legal obligation to protect you. Even if you call them because the husband who has a restraining order served against him is coming to the house and has taken the children, the police do not have a legal obligation to go take care of that for you. And those children died. And the Supreme Court ruled the police were not at fault. So keep that in mind, Americans. The police do not have a legal obligation to protect you. The government's job is not to keep you safe. The government's job is to keep you free. That's it.
I want to jump in on socialized medicine if I could real quick.
Do it.
I, quite a while ago, was injured in a work accident, and my back was horribly messed up. Rather than go through workers' comp, I spent my own money and I found the most awesome doctor I could find by reputation in the upper Midwest. And I traveled to Minneapolis to see the guy. And I spent a lot of money. And this guy helped me get my back to where I could continue working. Otherwise, I'd have been medically retired a long time ago. With socialized medicine, I'd have been stuck with whoever was here. And if they finished last in their class in medical school, well, they still got their doctor's degree. They still would have been the one that assigned to work on me. I wouldn't have been able to go up to Minneapolis and get my back worked on and get better and get back to work and pay more taxes. That's why I believe in our current form of medical care, where I think socialized medicine hurts everybody. And by the way, you think that doctor in Minneapolis would be a doctor in socialized medicine where he's told he's going to get $67.30 for every patient he sees? Heck no. Somebody that smart, they're going to be a lawyer. They're going to be a something else. They're not going to be a doctor. You're not going to get the best and brightest in socialized medicine.
Here's another point, and I think I hear this point that he's making here from Europeans all the time. So if your native language is not German in Europe, you're welcome. If
he's in Austria, so
hang on. There's a continuation to it. If you do not excuse nes Ruski, you're welcome. Factually speaking, while we may not pay directly into your defense budget, that $600 billion is the reason why Europe gets to make the lefty decisions that they make every single day. Because the United States is essentially holding that piece of garbage together by pure willpower. Otherwise, all of the wicked little people on the right-hand side of the globe would have swept over your little happy lefty homes and walked away with all of your little imaginary dreams. And so the reality of it is, no matter what you believe about how America funds their military, having been a veteran of it, I can tell you that it is not perfect. But inherently, there's no free people on this planet that have not been brought that way and maintained that way at some level by our contribution. So don't get snotty, European, until you can hold your own borders.
That goes back to what we talked about. NATO has been overfunded for far too long by the U.S. And it's about time that the NATO countries decided to kick in their own money and secure their own borders so that we don't have to. Because again, it's not our job to keep every other country safe, and we're not the world police. And a lot of countries, from what I've been told, resent us for acting like we're the world police. And so Austria is not a part of NATO. You may not be a part of NATO, but you're surrounded by NATO countries, and there but for the grace of God goes you, with what he said about speaking the Russian. So,
Sandy,
you,
I want to make one statement about rights. Have your rights, but don't make me pay for them.
well, that goes back to the socialized medicine thing. I really don't have any desire to pay for Paul's hip replacement surgery when he's old. If you need a hip replaced, well, I mean, right. But I've been saving all my money just in case that I may need a new hip one day. And then I find out that money has to go to pay for somebody else who didn't work a day in their life. And now the government is providing them with healthcare because for some reason they're entitled to free healthcare because they breathe air. Again, I didn't work for my money to pay for somebody else's surgery. I don't pay the insurance premiums that I do to pay for everybody else's healthcare. And so it's just like education. I did not work this hard to make the money that I made so that I could pay off everybody else's student loan debt when I get no benefit out of that, because I didn't ever get a student loan. So why should I have to pay for a student loan that I never took out? That's kind of like saying, well, if you, I bought a car, but now I think that you all should pay for it. So I don't have to pay for it anymore because those payments they're really high because I got a really nice car and I can't afford it. So I'm really hoping that everybody else will just make my car payment for me. If I said that, everybody would either laugh because they thought I was joking, or they would laugh because they think I'm completely stupid or crazy. But that's exactly what's happening with education. People want that. People want healthcare. And again, you don't have a right to anything that forces somebody else to do it for you. It's not the way it works. And what Paul said, how many people, if we limit, or if the government controls all of the healthcare, they control all the doctors, then how good is that healthcare going to be when there's no incentive to be a doctor? When my mom was diagnosed with cancer, she went to Sioux Falls, and the doctor that she saw was there at, well, McKinnon. I know it's called Avera now, but it'll always be McKinnon in my mind. And the doctor that she saw was from Egypt. And when she was still being treated before she passed away, that doctor actually had retired, and his practice was taken over by a doctor, I believe, from either Spain or Mexico. I don't remember which. So we went from one foreign doctor to another foreign doctor. Why is that? Why would somebody from Egypt go halfway across the world and work in South Dakota? Why would somebody from Spain or from Mexico go and work in South Dakota? Why wouldn't Dr. Samir be practicing in Cairo? Why wouldn't the other doctor be in Madrid or in Mexico City? Because talent follows the money. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Samir was one of the top 5 oncologists, female oncologists in the world. And my mom was treated by the best of the best. You know why? Because he charged a crap ton. You know why? Because he came to America where he could be compensated for the level of talent and the level of care that he gave. It's not that often that you see a doctor with the bedside manner that he had. He was an amazing man, is an amazing man. I'm sure he's still alive. So if anybody knows Dr. Samir, then please tell him thank you, because he added years to my mom's life that she wasn't going to have. But honestly, the reason why we have so many top doctors that come here from other countries, it's not because there's too many doctors in their country. No, we get the cream of the crop because we pay for it. because they can charge a lot because they're worth it. But in socialized countries, they don't get to charge what they want. They get to charge what they're told they can charge. And then we don't have the best doctors in those countries because they left. They came here. What's left? You know what they call the guy that that graduated at the bottom of his medical class?
Doctor.
Yes. Is that what you want? Because that's what you're going to get. You de-incentivize anything, and the quality of it goes down. The quality of the work goes down. It's just kind of like if we raise the minimum wage to $15 across the country, and I can quit my job and go flip burgers for $15, then why should I do a good job at the job that I have? Or what's actually going to happen is, to keep me from flipping burgers, my job's going to have to offer me a lot more money, which means that prices for everything else are going to go up too.
Mm-hmm.
So
you want $15 an hour, be prepared for a $15 combo meal at McDonald's.
Yep, exactly right.
If they
And
want
$8 a gallon milk.
Yep.
If they want $15 an hour wages, they're stopping to think about one simple thing. The economy in that area is going to want their piece of the pie.
Yeah.
No, if they want $15 an hour minimum wage, they're going to end up with a lot of kiosks and a lot higher unemployment because the small businesses can't afford to do it no matter what they think.
Nope,
Yep.
that's very true. And there's going to be a lot of positions that are dropped down to part-time so they don't have to pay benefits.
Yep. That's already
happened. And not only that, look what happened in Bernie Sanders' campaign when they all wanted a higher wage. So they all got a higher wage and their hours got reduced, and they brought home the same money at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Socialism at its finest, kids. That's what happens. You cannot bring everybody up by holding everybody down. It just doesn't work.
I got a bunch of new employees when they started doing that stuff.
It's about time to either wrap it up or we're going to have to get Paul another drink. So, you know what? I think it is about time to wrap it up. I think we've beat these horses about as hard as we can beat some of them. Again, I want to thank all of you for making the chat what it was tonight. I tell you what, if you haven't been paying attention to the chat, then go back and watch this. Hit that live chat button, turn it back on, and just read through some of these comments, because there's been some great comments out there. And Manfred, I know that you don't understand some of what we talked about tonight from the same perspective that we do, because you don't have the same perspective that we do, and I get it. And it's okay to question that. It's okay to question us. It's also okay for us to believe that our system is better. We also have the longest running government on the planet right now. So it's worked for this well for a reason this long. I don't believe in changing the things that work, but that's just because I'm getting older. So anyway, I'm going to give everybody a chance to wrap things up and give any final thoughts. So Paul, we'll start with you. Any shameless plugs that you want to give, final thoughts, and then where can people find you?
Well, I'm going to really encourage everybody to go to YouTube or to Facebook on Monday. The Polite Society podcast, go ahead and look it up. I broadcast at both places. I've got a huge major announcement that is going to be affecting my show and a lot around me this coming Monday. But yeah, the Self-Defense Radio Network is where your show, my show, a lot of like-minded shows are at. But yeah, if you would please, on either Facebook or YouTube on Monday, tune in. We go live at 5 p.m. Central Time, and we've got a earth-shattering announcement that we're going to be making.
Let me just do this and that. There is a link out there in the live chat to the Polite Society Podcast YouTube channel. If you want to find the Facebook page, either just search it yourself or go scroll through my page on Facebook, because you'll see a lot of posts from Polite Society Podcast. And Paul's really good at sharing my stuff too, so I appreciate
when I'm reminded.
When you're reminded. when I give you the link so you can share it.
Yes.
Not in a closed group. Because you forgot how to copy and paste. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
In my defense, I was having dinner at the time.
Well, see, that's all you had to say. It's all good. So yeah, I can't wait to hear the news Monday, 5 Central, Polite Society podcast, and then check out the Armed Society podcast on. When does that drop? Usually on Tuesdays?
That's live Wednesday evenings. By the way, I'm short a seat tomorrow. You got anything going tomorrow evening?
I might. We'll see. Let me get back to you on that because it's been kind of busy here lately. So I might have to forego for a couple of weeks just to
Sure.
put some other stuff out. We'll see what happens there. But anybody that wants to be on that podcast, if he doesn't get anybody from SDRN on there, then I know Paul was thinking about opening that up to the public. So just reach out to him, Polite Society Podcast on social media, and maybe you can be the chosen one to be the 4th on the Armed Society Podcast because it's really cool format, kind of like what we do here, kind of not. Very unique, and it's just a lot of fun to be part of, and a lot of fun to watch too. So anyway, thanks for being here, Paul. I appreciate all the stuff that you do, and he's not going to bring it up. I'm going to bring this up. I probably should have said this way earlier. If you're not aware, there was a 2-way rally for your rights online this weekend. And if you saw that, caught any of that, then thank Paul, because he was working behind the scenes. Everything that came up on that screen, every person, the host, the presentations, that was all organized. That was all put up on your screen by Paul. So thank you very much for all the work and all the effort that you put into to make that go as smoothly as it did. It looked amazing. And you really are a blessing to everything that we do for the 2A. But some of this stuff, AmCon, GRPC, the virtual 2A rally for your rights, a lot of this stuff doesn't happen without Paul. Somebody probably would have stepped in and done it, but the fact that we have you there to do it and make it look as smooth and seamless as it did, I mean, that was cool. I liked it, and we appreciate you.
And I think I'm going to burn out my camera by glowing so red right now. Thank you. It's everything I do is a labor of love. I do what I do because I truly enjoy doing it.
Tell you what, there's not that many of us that do this because we get paid to do it, or get paid very much anyway. And those that do get paid, that ain't why they're doing it. Anything Pro 2A really is a labor of love because we love our liberties, we love our freedoms. So thanks for being here, Paul. Nighthawk Medic Shoots, final thoughts, shameless plugs. Where can people find you?
I want to give a response to something out there. No, I do not hate Germans, 7 Wonders. Shameless plugs. You can find me on full30.com and youtube.com. Got a bunch of neat stuff coming up, including a less than $500 1911 A1 clone that runs like a sewing machine. So really super exciting. Thanks for having me, John, as always. Paul, good to see you again. Everybody else, have an amazing night.
So that 1911 was built by Singer Sewing Machine. Is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking it might have been the way it runs. It'll even run hollow points in an A1 frame.
Wow. Very cool.
If you do have a Singer 1911, man, you got some money.
No
Boy,
kidding.
wouldn't you?
No kidding. I don't know where the whole gun is, but I know where the slide is to a Remington Rand, which I wish the whole gun was together because that'd be worth something too.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for being here, sir. Single Shot, you're up next. Final thoughts, and then where can people find you? Any shameless plugs you want to give?
Yeah, sure. I got the Single Shot channel. That's with an exclamation point. Check me out there. I am a truck driver, so I don't get a steady, predictable time that I post a video. But I want to thank you, Paul. That was a very good rally there that you put on.
I had a lot of help, man. It was not just me.
That took a lot of organization for sure. But I'd like to have everybody take care, be safe, drive safely. America moves by truck. So
Amen.
we need you guys' help out here while we're out here on the road, supplying everything that everybody uses.
A single
So,
shot.
thank-
If you ever get through Sioux Falls, South Dakota, give me a shout. I'll buy you a cup of coffee, man. I retired after 19 and a half years of trucking 2 weeks ago.
Well, congratulations. I've been on here for 31. So I don't get out that way very often now, but who knows? Maybe.
Without
Thanks.
trucks, America stops. If you ate today, if you're in the U.S. and you ate today, then thank a truck driver.
If you got clothes on your back,
If
thank a
you
trucker.
have clothes, if you ate, if you put fuel in your vehicle, thank a truck driver. Exactly.
Thanks a lot, John. That's
bet.
much appreciated. I
Thanks
want to
for
leave
being
with
here.
one other thought. Think about corner devising and see what it's done to this economy. Take care. God bless. Thanks for the invite, John.
You betcha. All right, Defense Dad, you're up next.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was a good, lively chat tonight. I kept myself PG rated, so it was pretty. As far as me, I just Defense Dad's my channel. I put up a new video tonight just before the show, part of my Budget versus Beauty series. Check it out, but check out everybody's channels on here. Everybody has good stuff.
Absolutely true. All right. And then last but certainly not least, Pat Hirsch. Anything that you want to throw out there? Any final thoughts? And one of these days, we're actually going to cajole you into making some videos and posting those up so we can watch them.
Yeah, got plans after harvest to do that. Just a little bit busy right at the moment. Got lucky with the snow and got drove out of the fields. But I wanted to thank you for having me on tonight, and thank for everybody for being on here tonight. And I did catch a little bit of the 2A stuff this weekend in the truck, and yeah, definitely good stuff. Final thoughts on everything that's going on in the world. Get out and vote. And it doesn't matter if there's an R or a D behind that candidate's name. Vote on the policies, on what they have planned. Don't vote just because Orange Man bad or because somebody can't speak half the time. Do
Come
your
on,
homework.
man.
Look at the policies. Do the research.
Come on, man.
You started smiling, and I knew you were going to say something. But anyway, yeah, get out there and vote. Everybody be safe.
All right. Thanks for being here. All right. So we're going to go to the list. Those of you out in the live chat, thank you very much for keeping it lively, like I said before. And like I said, if you're out there commenting, then Sandhills Sweetheart actually puts your name down, and I get to read the names off at the end of the night. If you're not making comments, we don't see you. We don't know you're there. And if that's what you want, okay, I get it. But we just like when we get to interact. That's why we're not on radio or TV. That, and we're not that famous. But the interaction, that's yet. Yeah, we'll see. That's up to God, not me. But the interaction, the live interaction, is what makes this platform so much better than radio or TV. Like I keep saying, you can scream at the TV, you can scream at the radio all you want, but nobody hears you. Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite, they never got any feedback live the way that people do online. It's so much better. So that's why we love it when people are out there in the chat. Without that, it's just six people sitting around that, for the most part, just kind of agree with each other on a lot of things and disagree with each other on some things. And it's not that really that entertaining. It's you out there watching and participating. That's what makes this worthwhile for us anyway. So thank you for being out here. Single Shot, Iron Horseman, Blitz, Fluffy 10mm Jeep Guy, Just Me Danny, Shooting Money 101. I don't think I've seen that name, like I said. James Allen, Pat Hirsch, Patriot in the Dark, Grim 90, Defense Dad, Travis T, also known as Other Travis, Agorizer, Idaho Rogers USMC, Seven Wonders, M. Gabriel, Mike, It Was Like Emptiness, New York Outcast, Unknown User, Burgers J. I don't think I've seen that name yet either, so welcome. G23, Clint, Taurus. Say it fast, you'll understand why I didn't. The Poor Conservative, still the best screen name ever. The Poor Conservative, Two Live Moo, Manfred Maximus, our Austrian neighbor. Thank you for asking questions. It's cool. I'm glad you were here. And please share this with your friends. Maybe everybody in Austria doesn't get it. That's fine. But if it makes people think, that's all I ask for. The Tennessee Gun Guy, Tim Foley, the Redneck Prepper. I think it's the Redneck Prepper. This is the Redneck Pepper, which would also be kind of a cool name. Vash Matrix, Ozzy Osbourne, Armament and Axes, and she's reaching for the list. Who do we have left? Oh, I thought you were going to add a last minute one. Okay, cool. So again, if you liked what you saw or what you heard tonight, then hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button. Either way, it lets YouTube know that you were here, that you cared, you had something to say about what we had to say. If you're catching this on replay and you have anything that you want to sound off on, drop us a comment. You can put those down below or off to the side or wherever it is on the device that you're using. Make sure that you do turn on that live chat, because I did enable that for the replay. So you can hit live chat and just watch those comments come through. Yeah, obviously you can't chat there, but you can see what everybody else said. And it's really cool to just go back and watch with that on there. I really like doing that. But please share the heck out of this link. If you're on Facebook and you haven't yet, please go find Sandhills Shooter on Facebook and like the page, follow it, whatever you want to do there. If you haven't subscribed to my channel here, please subscribe. We're just getting dangerously close to 2,000. It keeps teasing me that maybe before the end of the year, we're going to break the 2,000 mark. That would be kind of cool. So
hit the bell.
Hit the bell too, so you know when we go live. We try to do this the same time every week, Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock Central Time. But I know you get busy, you forget, you get that notification, you're like, oh yeah, Sandhills is going live. So go ahead and hit that bell too, and make sure you turn on the notifications to all. You never know what I'm going to drop. It might be a cool video. I've got some range testing that I did today. Going to try and get that video done before the end of the week too. So all kinds of fun stuff coming out here. And next week, I haven't decided, but we're probably not going to have a chat just because of election coverage and everything else. And I don't know how many people want to come in here and talk about a different topic. I'm going to be watching election coverage. I really don't want to watch election coverage and talk about it on a watch party or anything like that. I'm not that good at the multitasking. And so everything that I had to say about the election, I pretty well said tonight. And I think everybody else kind of did too. So I do know that there's a couple different opinions in here. I think it's not too late. We've got a week. If you don't know who to vote for yet, go do the research. You've got a week. You can do a lot of research on Google in a half an hour. Go do the work. Paul feels otherwise. He thinks if you're not decided, then maybe you should just sit this one out and not cast a vote. Both are valid opinions. Let me know what you think. Comment down below and let me know if you think it's best to do the research with a week left to go, or it's best to sit this one out. What do you think? On behalf of Pat Hirsch and Defense Dad and Single Shot and Nighthawk Medic Shoots and Paul Lathrop, on behalf of Sandhills Sweetheart and myself, thank you all for making this chat what it is, this channel, the Facebook page. It's nothing without you. We appreciate you. We love you. God bless all of you. Get off my lawn, though.